Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar, which is co-hosted in association with Let's Talk CX of Oracle. And it's part of a series of driving conversations on the modern customer experience. And today we have a very expert panel to help us understand this topic. And more importantly, a lot of people talk about customer experience, but today's session is about how do you actually do that? So we're going to talk more about the practical insights and frameworks and how can we make it happen for marketers. So thanks again for joining us. I know today's Friday the 13th, and I really hope that customer experience has been going great for you. And part of what modern customer experience is about is actually the predictive nature. So if you think on a particular day things are more likely to go wrong, maybe because of extra traffic, anything, then you can actually use historical data and make considerations for it to prevent it from happening again. Similarly, we can predict the future behavior of customers and accordingly take action. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And we have experts with us, like I mentioned. So we have Satyajit Rajput, who's the head of Oracle Digital Prime Solution Consulting for India. We have Kaushik Satish, who's a VP Marketing for Belong.co, which is an interesting HR play on outbound predictive hiring. And then we have Neha Gupta, who's the head of marketing for Chai Point. Most of us have definitely had chai from them and experienced their predictive customer experience. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first expert, Satyajit. Over to you.
Can you hear me, Jesse?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Okay, is it visible now?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Great. So thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining this discussion on modern customer experience for today's marketers. My name is Satyajit Rajput, head of CX Solution Consulting for Digital Prime India at Oracle. And I have around 20 years of experience in ERP and CX transformation projects. And I'm a frequent online shopper, so that gives me the experience on the other side as a consumer, which will definitely help me to relate that with what I'm talking today. So let me take you through a brief story about customer. Okay, yeah, can you see, Jesse, my slide, next slide, just to reconfirm?
Yes, it's fine.
Great. So I'm taking you through a brief case study where we have had a customer achieving a best customer experience for one of our retailing customer. So let me take you through and let me take you through this brief case study where we meet Mr. Raj, who is recently engaged with Reena and looking for gifting a smartphone to Reena. And he starts searching for the phone on search. Let's Google search here. And he sees the display ads of those phones coming from shopping.com right here. And these display ads are basically driven by the DMP data-driven search ads by the marketer of shopping.com behind the scene, right? So because the marketer doesn't know Raj and his intent to buy a mobile phone, so he's hoping that from this search ads, Raj will land on the website or commerce site of shopping.com. So as Raj clicks on this one of these display ads, it takes him to the shopping.com website where he starts searching for various phones and comparing them and starts adding them in the cart or probably browses them through various phones. And he's also encouraging the whole process to sign up or download the mobile app. And if there is a chatbot here, he would be sharing a lot of information about the intent, interest, and the expectations about this particular product. Right? So during this interaction with this shopping.com website, he's suddenly getting distracted by a phone call from his fiancée. And now he's, after the call, he's looking at the stock market website and looking for selling some stocks to make some profit to plan for his wedding. right? So the interactions in the previous stage on shopping.com, the digital interactions of Raj are captured by the marketer through data management platforms and various intelligence tools to send him some banners and display ads again on the stock market website, so that he can restart his purchasing process. Now, unfortunately, again, he's not interested because he's more interested in selling his stock and making profit there. So when he goes to his uh, phone and starts browsing through the social media about his fiance's pictures from a recent trip, he starts again getting this display ad on the native as a native ad on his social media feed, and from there he's again encouraged to land on shopping.com. So he goes to shopping.com, but this time now you can see here he gets a personalized experience on shopping.com with the phone he had selected and certain offers with those phones, right? So that's based on the interaction he had in the previous visit to shopping.com. That helps to improve this experience for this customer, and he looks at uh, looks at buying this phone. Basically, a conversion happens here, either in the form of a action of a buying or adding to the cart. Unfortunately, again, let's say he gets distracted by a phone call and he abandons the cart there itself, cart on, and that's where the cross-channel orchestration tool will take over to uh, trigger outbound marketing program through orchestration tool, and which is an automated tool again, that doesn't need a manual intervention, and that program would start with sending him an email to welcome to the club of shopping.com. And if he had downloaded apps in the previous interaction, he would start getting push notifications on his app to encourage him to buy the phone he had added in the cart. Or if not, he gets an email as a part of this um, journey, customer experience journey, to encourage him to buy this phone on shopping.com. Again, probably the transaction is not happening, so because he's too busy to look into the emails. So he gets an SMS after a day or so, and with a link to the shopping.com cart, and he opens up that message. It reminds him to buy this phone, and he's now completing the transaction. So that's how the entire customer experience journey happens, from a paid channel to the inbound channel on shopping.com website, and then through the push notifications or emails or SMS, like outbound channels from a customer which was unknown right in the beginning, for a marketer, to now a known customer. And once the customer is known with his email ID, with his identities, personal information, his mobile phone, that helps the marketer to retarget this customer with cross-sell and upsell opportunities. For example, now the customer can be retargeted for selling the power banks or maybe docking stations or headset as a part of orchestrated program. Now, the happy customer would start sharing the feedback on social media site, as you can see here, and he becomes an advocate for the brand. Right? So if you have those AI, artificial intelligence, or machine learning embedded into these applications as a part of customer experience, that would help to understand the digital footprint of the customer, the relationship of this customer Raj, and the events like engagement events, which would trigger offer for this customer Raj for, let's say, buying additional phone for himself, or maybe buying some televisions or home appliances as a part of his wedding preparation. So the entire journey is uh, across all the channels, as you can see, different channels at a different point of time and different situations, and that helps in providing a consistent messaging across these channels, which would benefit the customer from an enhanced customer experience point of view, as you can see here. And from marketer perspective, it will improve the conversion, drive upsell, cross sell, improve the retention of this customer, and also help him to optimize. For a marketer, it will help him to optimize the spend, because he knows the right audience to target through right channels, through right marketing programs or campaigns, instead of batching and blasting emails for thousands of customers or millions of prospects, right? And also improves the productivity because this kind of automation tool doesn't require manual intervention, and uh, that helps to save a lot of time for the marketer so that he can analyze the campaign performances as well as focus on strategy and vision for marketing. So that's a fantastic story you could see here. And but in reality, there are different challenges when the customer moves from suspect, prospect, customer to advocate, from unknown to known through this entire journey. And a marketer is trying to understand where this customer is interacting, on which channel, on which devices, right? And customer is interacting with this brand on different devices, different channels, and it's very difficult for marketer to connect these identities and interaction to know their customers individually and personalize customer experiences. At the same time, he's also leveraging different tools. As you can see, there are more than, when I zoom into this particular marketing technology landscape, there are more than 5,000 or 6,000 tools or applications on different areas are available in the market. And when the marketer leverages at least 10, 15 of these applications for different uh, purposes or different channels or different devices during this entire customer journey process, and if these applications or tools are acting in silos, it's very difficult for marketer to understand and connect the customer experience journey. So these are some of these challenges what marketers face when they want to provide this consistent journey across different channels. And another biggest challenge is how to connect this data and understand the customer, right? So we have a customer interacting on a different devices, different channels with different identities like desktop ID, email ID, or IP addresses, cookie IDs, social IDs, or some telephonic IDs, addresses. And with all these transactions or interactions happening on the customer with the different devices and different channels, it's important to connect these channels and identities so that marketer can understand customer behavior and provide a consistent experience across these channels in the entire customer experience journey. And that's where we at Oracle are uh, has built a Oracle ID graph, which helps in connecting all these IDs and managing the interactions across different channels and different devices today. The another important thing is for the marketers is to adopt the data-driven approach and data-first approach, where they need to have this data to discover and approach these customers or reach out these prospects or unknown audiences beyond what they have as a part of their CRM systems as a customer, so that they can improve their convergence, they can uh, expand their business and achieve the revenue growth, desired revenue growth as per their strategies. And that's where the we have Oracle Data Cloud, where invested billions of dollars to build such first party, second party data, third party data, and from a behavioral perspective, from online demographics perspective, interest, lifestyle of the customer, and their intent to buy the products under different categories in the market. Right? So we have such 5 billion global consumer profiles are available as a part of Data Cloud, and this information is publicly available on this portal. What you can see here, where you can see that how many of these 5 billion consumer profiles are available for India. So around 45 million, 450 million profiles are available. And if you further browse them under different categories, you can further segment and identify the audience to target. So for example, there are 100,000 people who are available in market to buy real estate. And for a real estate company, when they target those 100,000 customers with those specific projects and a personalized messaging, and let's say even 1% conversion happens, so which is 1,000 customers buy real estate property from that company, and let's say even if they have 1 lakh rupees margin on that project on each sale, that adds to almost 10 crore margin or bottom line to the real estate company. That's a substantial RO, return on investment on such kind of tools and applications. Right. So let me take you some of these tools which were leveraged uh, behind the scene in that customer experience journey. One of them is data management platform, which targets the unknown customer through paid channels like displays, search engines, and social ads, right? And this DMP would help you to analyze all these first party, second party data, third party data from the data cloud solution, what Oracle Data Cloud with identities connected by ID graph, and help you to analyze the segments and build an audience where the DMP will reach out or activate those various ad tech and martech partners to improve the conversion from display ads or social ads or the banners or on the websites. Right? From there, the customer comes to the website, which is an inbound channel for the brand or marketer. And here, the brand or marketer can provide a personalized experience like what we have seen in that customer journey. A Samsung phone starts appearing for that customer based on his interest, right in the on the front page in the beginning. Right. So this is where we help the customers to completely reorganize the website and make it personalized for individual customers, right? And improve the conversion from the sales perspective. And as the customer lands on this inbound channel and makes him known in terms of email IDs and various identities, that helps the outbound orchestration, cross orchestration tools, cross channel orchestration tool to complete the entire journey in terms of a workflow, where it could be sending on emails, SMSs, or push notifications for upsell, cross sell, and retargeting these customers. Right? And on top of that, we have the intelligence application, which tracks the entire customer journey at different point of time and understands the views uh, and the users who are landing on the website, the interactions, average time spent on those different pages on the website. That helps to give us the inputs for various other cross-channel optimization tools as well as web optimization or app tools. So when all these tools are connected and leveraging the connected data as a layer and connected intelligence to provides a connected experience for our customers with speed, at scale, and securely. And this customer experience doesn't stop here, because it extends to sales or service applications or supply chain applications or ERP applications from a after sales experience perspective, from a deliveries perspective, from shipment perspective, or invoicing and receivables perspective, right? And we have an open platform to bring all those ad tech martech partner and connect with these tools and leverage this data and intelligence to provide better customer experience, consistent experience across different channels at right time, at right place, in the right situation to help to improve the conversion. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Satyajit. And I'm requesting the participants to post their questions in the chat window specifically for you. As I shared in the beginning of this session, today's webinar is a little bit unique in that we're going to have live interaction with the experts who are participating, and so we want to make it more interactive. So I'd like to introduce our first second expert speaker, I'm sorry, Kaushik Satish, who's the VP Marketing for Belong.co. And Belong is a very different kind of an organization. It does believe in outbound hiring, and they have a lot of analytics tools around that as well. So I'm going to open up the discussion with Kaushik. I hope you can hear me, and are you audible? Quick test.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, I can hear you too. So my first, sorry. Yeah, so my first question to you is, how do you build a consistent pre-sales and post-sales customer experience? And maybe before that, you can share a little bit about Belong and how it's different.
Yeah, happy to do that. So I think Belong, as you said, we are helping companies sort of really hire great talent. And our fundamental belief is that, if you're hiring great talent, today it's a candidate-driven market. Great talent is not necessarily applying into you. So most of your inbound mechanisms, right, if you put up a careers page or whatever it is, people, the sort of talent that you're really looking to hire is not necessarily looking for job opportunities and applying it to you, which means that you need to build the sort of persuasive experiences that companies do for their customers for your talent as well. So what we're saying is that talent acquisition is getting as competitive as customer acquisition. And therefore, companies need to change the way they're hiring. The experience that you give to your candidates, the data that you look at in trying to identify the great talent, and the sort of processes that you follow internally between your business and your talent acquisition, a lot of those things need to change and become more aligned if you're really looking at hiring game-changing talent, right? So that's the belief on which Belong solution is built. As you said, I've been overseeing marketing at Belong for the last 3.5 years. It's been a great experience. Customer experience and customer success is absolutely core to Belong. It's something that we have invested and built on a lot for the last 3.5 years. So very happy to come here and share some of our thoughts and experiences.
Great. So, I think if it was easy, everybody would love to give customer experience and great one. So what are the challenges? I mean, what makes it difficult to consistently implement a good customer experience?
Sure. So I think just to sort of step back, right? We look at customer experience as one part of the equation of customer success, right? So for us, customer success is two things. One is customer outcomes, which is why have they signed up with you? What is the ROI they're looking for? And what is the experience they're getting in trying to get there? Which is like every touch point that they're going through with you, be it a meeting, sales engagement, support escalation, product usage, every touch point has to be a fantastic experience for them, right? But the problem in sort of delivering that is internally as an organization, you're always structured in silos, right? So you have your support team that's taking care of escalations. You have marketing team that's optimizing for leads. You have your sales team that's focusing on your pipeline. And then you have your product team that's focusing on shipping. So all of these things, while it works great for internal efficiency from an operations point of view, if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, it doesn't really work for them. It becomes a very disconnected experience because everybody is focusing on their silos, right? Just to play it out, let's say you have a customer who you want to reach out for a reference. You want them to become your advocate. But at the same time, your sales, let's say, is involved in an upsell conversation, and there are some multiple escalation requests that have not been resolved, and there are a bunch of feature requests which are going through delayed implementation. It's going to be a very disconnected experience for your customers if you reach out to them at this point of time and ask them for a reference, and if you don't know exactly what's happening in the life cycle. So the biggest challenge, I think, is that for a lot of companies, there isn't a single source of truth about what really is happening inside that account and using the data to make the right decisions, right? Your ideal situation would be, for example, inside a customer, let's say you have a strategic account where there are escalations happening, and your sales, your account management team, and your product teams all know exactly what to do at this point of time. So that unified view of what needs to happen inside that account, I don't think is currently available for a lot of companies. And that's what needs to be built. Jesse?
Yes. So, it's a challenge that we're familiar with, but sometimes you wonder, is it because it's not getting measured that the work isn't getting done? So what's your experience with that, and how do you design predictive customer experience metrics?
Sure. So I would say we've followed some sort of like a 4-step process to sort of build that clarity inside organization. I think the first thing is aligning your organization around a singular customer journey. Now, this customer journey is iterative. It's changing, it's dynamic, it changes on the basis of your offerings, the new segments you're entering, and all of those things. But I think internally in the organization, you need to have an understanding of what your customer journey is. And your customer journey basically is 2 parts. One is, what is the outcome that they're trying to get to? And what are the inputs that are going to take from your end and from your customer's end to get to those inputs, right? So if you have that understanding of the journey, it's almost like a playbook. So you know what exactly you need to be doing as a company and what your customers need to be doing to get to those ROIs during the different points of the life cycle. If that understanding is not shared across the organization, I don't think you're going to have a great customer experience. It's going to be extremely disconnected for them. The second point, or the second part of this, once you have the journey, is the ability to capture data, right? And by data, I mean basically, are these inputs happening, right? Are the sales meetings happening? Is product adoption happening? Are the customers seeing the outcomes on the product that they're supposed to see, right? And is the customer on the other side happy? Are they taking part in some of the activities that you're doing, either from a customer marketing point of view or from a sales point of view? All of the data you need to start capturing. Once you get that data, I think you need to convert the data into insights, and this is where metrics become important, right? So be it your customer health scorecard or be it your NPS, these metrics you can then use to sort of make the right decisions, right? For example, if the customer is exhibiting the right behavior as demonstrated by the inputs that you're seeing, that converts into a great customer health score. But if they're not doing that, then you know that they're dropping on the customer health score, which means that this is a customer at risk, and therefore now you need to start putting in place the playbook that you would for mitigating churn or for sort of bringing the customer back from red to green. Right? So the idea is to put in place these forces. I think one, have the ideal view or the view of what an ideal customer journey for you should be. Second, put in place the mechanisms to capture the data across the journey, right? If the customer is taking part across the journey, make sure that you're capturing the data. Then convert the data into metrics that make sense for you, that give you insights. It could be customer health score, it could be NPS or anything else. And then use those metrics to make decisions about where does the customer go from here. If the customer is already green, this is a great moment to go and have upsell or expansion conversations. If the customer health score is red, then you know that you need to be doing a lot more to mitigate churn if particularly renewal is coming up over the next 3 to 6 months. Right? So that's how we go about building a more, I think, a consistent customer experience and the sort of metrics that you need to start mitigating churn or to start capitalizing on the momentum in their account.
So couple of questions for you, Kaushik. So one is, which has come from the audience, is that who should own the customer experience within an organization?
I think it depends on the maturity of the organizations or the scale at which the organization is. So for us, we are a 100-member organization and we're not really that layered, right? And also at our organization, we have taken the view that marketing is pretty much a full funnel organization, which means that we are on both the pre-sale side and on the post-sale side impacting the experience, right? On the pre-sale side, we do a lot of work on the sales enablement, events, leads, and all of that work. But on the post-sales side, we also do a lot of work around customer marketing. So if you ask me, at Belong, customer experience to a large extent rolls into marketing. But as I said, if the organization is far more mature, is at a much higher scale, you might need dedicated units that are looking at it.
And see, in the case of Belong, I think customer experience is really integrated. It's a differentiator for your business and is helping you with growth. So I'm not sure how relevant this question from Sonam is specifically for an organization like yours, but how much of the B2B marketing budget is utilized for customer experience?
I would say all of it.
Yeah, okay.
All of it. Yeah, we're completely optimized for customer experience, right? We're not just looking at customer experience once they become a customer. For us, I think the customer experience journey starts the moment anybody from our organization reaches out to them, or they reach out to us, or even before they reach out to us, right? What do they hear from our customers? What do they hear from our advocates? And all of these things become important. So we look at customer experience as a full funnel journey.
Right. And, I think that's, an advantage that you have, because I would say that, like Born Digital, you're like a Born CX organization. So last question to you is that if someone were in a position of having to re-engineer their organization around customer experience as a means for differentiation or growth, what do you think is the first thing they should consider, or the biggest possible obstacle to that reinvention?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
So I think you're an organization that, was born with CX at the heart of it. But if you are an existing organization and you are now relooking and reinventing yourself around CX, what would be your advice to that person? What do you think are some of the key challenges they would have to address?
If you're starting CX as a function from scratch today?
Yeah, or you're reinventing around CX.
So I think what happens initially is I can speak from our learning, is we probably ended up over-engineering at the beginning, and it's not necessary, right? I would say, keep it simple in the beginning. Do not try to build too complicated frameworks, models, or metrics or solutions that you cannot really track or really follow up on, which means that you probably are not really paying attention to the most important things about your customer. Just to give you an example, right? If at the very beginning, you don't really need to invest a lot, I think, in these highly automated signal capturing solutions to find out everything about your customer. You can adopt, I think, simple thing like a crawl walk approach, which is basically crawl walk run approach, right? You start by identifying the most important data points or signals about your customer that you should be monitoring to know if they are going to run the risk of churn, or if this is a great account for expansion conversations. Once you're able to capture the data, and then you say, okay, now is this data leading to the outputs that we want, right? Are we really able to use this data to go and have the kind of conversations that we need to? And then once we have those conversations, is the customer behavior changing? And if that happens, you can come back and iterate on the model and build and add more signals and make the model more mature, right? When you're putting in place some of these metrics or these models. You don't need to start off with a completely well-refined, engineered solution at the very beginning. I think keep the process iterative, keep the process simple, see how it goes. And if you're able to really use those insights or data points to go back and change the customer behavior, if you're able to do that, then you know that your model is working, and then continue to build on it.
Great. So thanks so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I'm going to let you go and bring on our next panelist. So thanks again, Kaushik.
Thank you.
So our next expert on the topic of customer experience is Neha Gupta, who's the head of marketing for Chai Point. We're exactly midway through our session, so great time for a chai break, actually. So Neha, first a quick, I've got your sound check done. So I think for you, again, it's a very different challenge. Every single cup of tea matters, every single delivery matters. How do you scale, and how do you think, marketing and technology are helping you to deliver a seamless customer experience?
Okay. So thanks for the question. I think for an organization like ours, right, which has multiple touch points and multiple business verticals, starting from retail to other sectors, I think at the core of the problem, and which I think the other two panelists also talked about, is how do we get that data in? Because at the core of customer experience in today's world is data. And once you have that data, then how does technology and marketing work together in terms of delivering and enhancing the customer experience? And I'll start by giving you like a practical example, because we were faced with a problem which is how do we get that data, and then how do we personalize that experience? So we experimented with something called a facial recognition app, which was the idea was that if a consumer is not willing to share their number or email ID, how do you kind of get that data on then to actually start with the basics of customer experience? And with the use of technology, we were able to build in a system where the sharing of data became seamless. And once with the help of technology, and once the sharing of data became seamless, it became like the core data bank through which we started targeting our consumers in multiple ways. Also, I think it's become very important as marketers is that one communication to all strategy doesn't really work. Whether it's retail, whether it's e-commerce or any other sector, it's about personalization. The consumer wants to understand if he or she is a repeat consumer, if he or she is interacting with an organization, how well does organization know about him or her, and what is the personalized experience that organization is able to deliver. So once we got through the working of marketing and technology together, once we got to understand the core data, then it's about how does, again, marketing and technology work seamlessly to deliver the message and to enhance the customer experience through personalized recommendations, through personalized products, which go across verticals, which is not really limited to just the retail front, but it also works very well in terms of your online deliveries. For a customer, the expectation in today's scenario and today's world is that whether the customer is interacting on one channel or another channel, now works with very high enhanced technology. Are we able to understand the needs? Are we able to give a more seamless experience? For example, could it be one-touch billing in online delivery? When they come to retail, is it that the organization understands what is the kind of ordering that they have done, and bases that understanding and AI into it, then basis our understanding and with the help of technology and AI, can we deliver actually recommendations which are more personalized to each consumer.
Great. I think one of the challenges,
Yeah,
I
just
think one of the challenges for organizations like yours, which have, both offline, online, in store, in home, how do you actually manage the personalized customer experience across multiple platforms?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges for an organization like ours, where the touch points for a consumer are actually multiple. So you could be walking into a store and ordering your chai, and then you could also be getting that chai delivered to your office, or you could be actually ordering through an aggregator app. And then, as an organization, it's a big challenge to understand how do we, one, deliver the perfect consumer experience in terms of product delivery. The second then becomes that how do we ensure that there is a personalization that happens across all these formats. I think for that, one particular thing that we've done from our side is actually that all systems interact with each other. And I think that's something that we touched upon earlier as well. It becomes very, very important for all separate verticals, the technology that is getting used in terms of whether it's SCM, so whether it's supply chain management, whether it's inventory management, whether it's billing processes across verticals to talk to each other, so that there is a centralized data system of the consumer. You know of how often consumer has interacted with the organization, what are the kind of interactions the consumer has done in terms of products, what are the kind of experiences the consumer has had, because one aspect is just about having delivering product, but it's also about consumer has had, and then personalizing that experience. So, for example, let me take an example in a sense. For example, if a consumer walks into one of our retail stores and orders a ginger chai, and doesn't necessarily feel that it's quite hot, and actually does mention it about on a social media or any other platform, do we have chatbots which are able to understand that yes, there is a customer complaint, then interact within the system to identify where does this customer experience happen, and then have a personalization onto that customer experience to convert that negative experience into positive. And I believe that's one of the biggest challenges for all marketeers today, and not just marketeers. I think it's a big challenge across functions for an organization to understand that various systems talk to each other in terms of technology, and then have that understanding with the marketing to kind of have that communication which is personalized, real time, and is at and is on time for a consumer not to feel that whatever experience they had, whether it was positive or negative, the interaction with the organization stopped with just the transaction and then really built into a more direct connect.
Great. So, couple of questions for you from the participants. So, one is, if you could just let them know what are your different lines of business, how is it omni-channel, and a related question, which are the systems and how do they interact with each other?
Okay, so in terms of omni-channel, so Chai Point has a big presence in retail, which is across cities. So that's one of our biggest channel in terms of interaction with consumer. Then we have our own delivery system through which we deliver chai and the food products, which is called Chai on Call. And then we also work with all the food aggregators in terms of delivery. So these are three key channels just in terms of the B2C part of the business. And then we have vending machine part of the business, which is separate. Again, in terms of systems which interact with each other across all these systems, and we have done integrations with aggregators.
Neha, I can't hear you now. It was pretty clear till now, but I can't hear you at all now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I hope that answer was complete in terms of what are the channels we are present in, what are the systems.
No, I think I could hear up to the aggregators, but after that, no.
Okay, so what I was mentioning was in terms of systems interacting with each other. One is just a principal billing system which works across all these channels, and that's an integration that's happened with the aggregators. Apart from that, we're building on systems so that inventory management, supply chain management, and the marketing automation tool are all linked with each other, so that we know that when a customer has interacted with us, is there a real-time communication or a real-time messaging that can happen? Can that messaging, in terms of customer experience, be personalized, in fact, to the time of the day or to the weather of the day? So essentially, it's about all these systems talking to each other seamlessly. And then, I'm sorry, I missed out, in fact, whether marketing tools, which are chatbots that are understanding what is the kind of communication the consumer is doing on customer experience and feeding it back to the billing and the supply chain system to understand like where really the problem happened and then addressing the problem.
Great. So coming back to the last question that was said, which is how does analytics help you in driving a successful customer experience strategy?
I think analytics is now very, very core for any organization which really wants to build on its customer experience. And for us as a brand, which, like we mentioned, is omni-channel, and hence the consumer interaction happens at multiple touch points, it becomes very, very imperative that we have understanding of deep analytics to know, one, what is the consumption patterns that are happening. Because if we run out of, let's take an example, if we run out of a ginger in one of our most popular stores, and the customer is expecting a ginger chai on an everyday basis, are they able to get that or not? And hence, very, very important that we understand the analytics, which is just the supply chain part of it. But also, whether what are the kind of communication that we are getting, for example, is from a particular store, are people saying that ginger chai is not really working for them in terms of taste, in terms of whether it's hot or not, and then how do you actually know, build on that analytics and work back with your systems in the back end to ensure that the customer experience is changed. Also, analytics for us in terms of consumption patterns, in terms of what the consumer is liking and not liking for food and beverages, works as the core principle on which all our new product development, on which all our marketing communication, which, like I was mentioning, real-time automated works. So that, for example, if we know that at 4 to 6 p.m. people actually love to consume samosas, then is that something that can be built into the communication strategy to enhance customer experience at that particular point of time, because you have an understanding from analytics that yes, this is a product that consumer would want at a particular time. So that's one part of it, which works very well with the retail. With online delivery as well, understanding of analytics in the sense that one, which is the kind of consumer and what are the time periods during which they order, so that our supply chain, our backend, and our partners at the store are trained for handling that kind of a traffic at that point of time. So that when we are telling consumer a particular time in which the order will be delivered, that timing is being completely met in terms of expectations, so that it doesn't lead to a bad consumer experience. Particularly because the kind of product that we deal with, which is chai, you need it to be hot. When you get it, you don't want it to be cold. You don't want it to not have that kind of flavor that you were looking for. And that's why it is very, very imperative for us to work with deep analytics. Otherwise, the kind of negative customer experience that can happen, since it's a product which is food and beverage, which is very, very sensitive in terms of consumer expectations. For us, hence working with deep analytics across verticals and particularly marketing to understand preferences and then work at the back end to ensure that what consumer is consuming, what consumer is asking for is met very well.
Yes, thanks so much, Neha, and that's been very insightful. I'm actually going to put up your key takeaways up here, and I wanted to ask a question from all of you. Actually, it's open to Kaushik, you, and Satyajit, which is, should the customer experience follow the natural path or the traditional path that the customer has used? Or do we nudge him into a more efficient or better path for us? What's your view?
So this is Satyajit. As as mentioned in my slides, that none of the customers now today follow a same path from an interaction perspective with the brand. So they follow different path at different point of time, depending on situation, location. So it's difficult for marketers to follow the same path, and hence marketers should adopt the customer behavior as per those interactions, and accordingly personalize messaging across different channels and devices.
So, this is Kaushik here. I think I have a slightly different take on it. Particularly, I think in B2B scenarios, yes, there is a customer behavior, and you really need to sort of work with that, and you need to sort of help them, with whatever they're currently doing. But the larger point, I think, is in many cases, the customers have signed up with you because they expect you to know better. So which means that you're probably working with them to change certain things, to change their processes or to change their behaviors, change the metrics they're monitoring, right? Or change some of the activities they're currently doing. So in many ways, I think what customers are interested in primarily is the outcome, right? They know what they want in many cases. They know what is the outcome or the ROI they're looking for when they're signing up with you. That becomes very clear. But to get there, they're sort of relying on you to keep them honest and accountable. They're relying on you to let them know what is better, what is the right way to get there. So I don't look at this as mutually exclusive, right? I don't think there is a customer journey and let them do what they're supposed to do, and there is your journey and you're supposed to force with them into that. What I look at it is as a common journey that is very important to get the customer to the ROI or to the outcomes that they need to get to. You will have to work with them. You will have to make the case with them. You will have to convince them, and that is and that is where I think things could get tricky. But as long as you have your eyes on what is best for the customer, what is right for the customer, and that is the reason they have signed up with you, I think that's the right thing for you to do.
Right, and there's another question which I'm going to rephrase a little bit, which is, if you're an Indian organization and you're looking at fast growth, then is a unique Indianized customer experience a way to compete with international players? And how do you go about getting those insights? Again, open to everybody.
Yeah, so I think one of the key things, and like you mentioned, right, being an Indian organization, how is it that you compete with multinationals in that sense? And I mean, just as an example, like say, for example, Starbucks, I think the first groundwork is just in terms of understanding how well you are able to deliver on your customer experience. Getting to understand whether the experiences have been positive and negative, and understanding the key reasoning behind it. And I think, how do you find out about what other players are doing? I think also the source of information is your customer, because at least in a B2C environment, the customer is interacting not just with one player, but it's interacting with multiple players. And the kind of industry that food and beverage is, very, very open in terms of whatever feedbacks they've had with any touch point across any organization.
Okay. My personal historical thing has always been that, many of the firms that competed successfully in India, have actually gone the customer experience route, because in general, we are moving from a scarcity economy. So there is, a growing market of affluence, and which are looking for a better customer experience. So it is definitely a route for growth. And more organizations should actually look at that. So moving along, we have one more question, which is, again, open to everybody, on how are you using AI for new product development? And this is from Subhendu. Kaushik, you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, I mean, but we don't particularly look at it as AI. At the end of the day, we're looking at intelligence. I don't want to particularly call it AI, but we're certainly paying a lot of attention to our product analytics. We're certainly paying attention to the intelligence and the insights coming out of that, and seeing, what behavior are we seeing that could lead to either new features, or what behavior are we seeing that's not really helping either the customer or the outcomes that they want to achieve, and consistently, I think, using those insights to make product roadmap decisions, right? I mean, one example that I can think of was that, for example, we work with recruiters. Recruiters are the core users of our product. One thing that we figured out was they were not really as savvy as marketers in figuring out what is the right time for communications to go out to some very strategic talent they want to hire, right? So they would just send out blast emails, bulk emails, content would not be relevant, the timing would not be relevant. We then started using analytics. We started using intelligence to let recruiters know, what timings work better for them, what language, what kind of content makes sense, what kind of content doesn't make sense, right? For example, if you're looking at hiring diversity talent, there is a lot of gendered language that could throw off a lot of female candidates or women candidates, right? Particularly if your content is extremely aggressive and if it doesn't appeal to people who want to work in more collaborative environments. And so we started using a lot of this data to let our customers know, how to frame their communications, how to frame their engagement, and what is the timing and what is the scheduling that makes sense, particularly when you're trying to reach out to high-end strategic talent. And that led to a lot of customer behavior changes that we started seeing on the product itself.
Great. I think with that, we will wrap today's session. Thanks to all of you. And, it's really great that everybody was able to join in from 3 o'clock. And thanks so much to Kaushik, Neha, and Satyajit for sharing your expertise with us today. And this is part of a series, like I mentioned. You can look at paulwriter.com/letstalkcx, and it's co-hosted with Oracle. And we will mail you a link to today's recording. And of course, do subscribe to our newsletter and visit our website for more content. Thanks so much, and hope to see you all at the next webinar.
Thanks, Trishi. Thanks, Kaushik. Thanks, Neha.
Thanks, Trishi.
Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.